Welcome out there, YouTubers. Cyberneticshark here with another new Star Wars movie review for you guys. So me and Mr. Mike here had such a wonderful time doing the first Star Wars. We decided we're going to do all the movies as well. That includes Solo, includes Rogue One, any of the shoots-offs, any of those. We're going to talk about them in movie reviews for you over the next several months. We're definitely not going to be doing all of them before we see Rise of the Skywalker, of course. Yeah. But you definitely will be getting another Rise of Skywalker video shortly after Rise of Skywalker comes out. So be on the lookout for that. So let's get right into this review of the awesome film that we're going to be reviewing today, and we'll see what it is. So welcome all in YouTube land and all subsequent social media lands. Welcome to an all-new movie review of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Once again, here I am with my good bud, Mr. Michael Traverse. Oh,
How
yeah.
you guys doing today?
How you doing?
Yo, Adrian.
Yeah, yo, Adrian. So, we're gonna review the awesome Phantom Menace for you guys today. So, buckle up your seats, people, and here we go. So, of course, we want to start off with, this is the first film in the awesome series of the amazing Star Wars film series. So this is number 1, of course, of the 9 film series that supposedly is coming to a conclusion with Rise of the Skywalker. But with Phantom Menace, we got a whole new fresh take on Star Wars after almost 20 years since the last film came out. From 1993 is when the last time we saw a Star Wars film, which was Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Then we didn't get Phantom Menace until 1999. So, I mean, it was quite a few years in between. So, the CGI, the animation, everything about it just was so much more superb. And recently watching it, I remember watching it, this really holds up after it's been out for 20 years now. Because we're in 2019 and now it's, 20 years old now. And the movie still looks so fantastic and superb. And I really think it's probably one of Lucas's best of the Star Wars films. Honestly, what do you feel about it, Mike?
I feel that The Phantom Menace was a very good movie. And like you said, that long, 10 years or 6 years before, they came out with from The Return of the Jedi to, The Phantom Menace, just like you said, the CG has come a long way in just those 6 years, due to cinematic advances and whatnot. And we got, it was a quality film. I like The Phantom Menace. It gave us a lot of story that we really didn't know, things that we didn't really know about, with the first original trilogy.
Yep.
So, seeing that George Lucas, decided to, give us a little bit of backstory was really great for a lot of Star Wars fans.
Most definitely. This being, like we were talking about how long it's been between the two films, it still was nice to see it come back and kind of give us the beginning story to who Anakin Skywalker is, kind of how he became, his progression from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader. And also, this was kind of like the beginning and culmination of the Skywalker, basically the legacy of what that is and what they've been calling this whole series, the 9 films. Basically it's been the Skywalker legacy.
Exactly.
And this one, thinking about it, basically if you not familiar with this one basically gives you the, when Obi-Wan is basically, he's an apprentice to Qui-Gon Jinn. Basically it's kind of the starting formation of, what's going to become the Empire. You got Senator Palpatine, who we first get to meet in this, who aka is Darth Sidious. And then, of course, you got, your whole subplot of, basically going to Tatooine. They meet Anakin, who we get to see for the first time in, his Anakin form versus his Darth Vader form. And then basically kind of what leads him to becoming a Jedi apprentice, basically, is what this film's about. But at the same time, you got all these amazing things that go on in this film. You have this giant droid army that's around that you get to see in battle between the Gungans. You got, of course, the amazing character who I absolutely love, Jar Jar Binks. Let's talk about Jar Jar Binks for a second here, Mike. Go ahead, sir.
Jar Jar Binks is quite the character. I feel he was needed in Star Wars for a little bit of comedy. A little that comic relief, because it was a very serious situation. It drops you in the middle of a war, or right on the doorstep of war. And it's a very serious situation. The Separatists are annexing Naboo.
Yep.
And it drops you in the middle, and you don't know what's going on, And then, just, all you know is, the Empire is running the indigenous creatures through the forest. They're, like, raising the planet.
Yep.
And, people are just running to survive. And then these two Jedis come across a sentient creature.
Yeah.
If you could call it sentient.
Yeah.
The ability to speak does not convey intelligence.
Yes, that is true. I have to agree with that.
Jar Jar Binks is a fantastic character. I love Jar Jar.
I think he was fantastic too. Some of the things he said are just hilarious, which I think that's why Lucas put him in there for the comedy element. Like you were saying, he was that comedic element that he wanted to add to it, which I think was perfect because with all the craziness that's going on between the Federation and the film, kind of trying to them take over, kind of like how the Empire ends up trying to take over and stuff like that, and they succeed in doing that. But at the same time, it's like you got Viceroy and all these kind of crazy and kind of these like sad story about Anakin leaving his mother and all this stuff, and then you got this awesome like comedic character that you get in the film and just adds the great humor to the film.
Who was literally just bumbling through every situation.
Exactly.
Trying to help.
And that's what made Empire Strikes Back so amazing too, is when they added the goofy Yoda character.
Exactly.
Basically. I mean, the first time we got to see Yoda was in Empire Strikes Back, but at the same time, it's like he kind of provided a little comic relief in the film.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel that's, what Jar Jar did for the Phantom Menace. But yeah, it's just so funny how that character got so axed by so many critics and people like that, and even the poor actor that portrayed him, in certain scenes, we feel really bad for because he did a great job, and he didn't get enough credit for how good he was.
People really they see Jar Jar for what it is, and it's like, oh, he's just a fool, he's bumbling and whatnot, and it's like people don't realize that the actor that brought Jar Jar to life brought Jar Jar to life.
Yeah,
he really I thought I was looking at a weird alien that literally couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I didn't see it as an actor portraying Jar Jar.
Yeah.
I felt it was Jar Jar.
Exactly, yeah. Which I also want to bring, it brings me to think, if you think about it, The Phantom Menace also was kind of the introduction to the comedy duo of C-3PO and R2-D2, if you think about it, too. Because as the films went on, in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, we got more and more comedy elements from those two. And the fact that in this one, and he's like, and R2-D2 tells him, it's like, my pots are showing. You're just like, you start cracking up so hard, and you're like, that was the beginning to that, another kind of comic duo for this series, which George Lucas did a great job with.
Exactly.
The fact that Lucas actually came back and directed this, too, was an awesome thing, too, as well. Which I feel really made this, the first, prequel trilogy so much better than the originals, because we only got Lucas to direct one of the original films,
which I thought was needed for if there were going to be prequels, George Lucas would have had to have kicked that off, because there's no way that because all the newer movies, it's different directors, we're getting different input onto the story, but for the originals we had George Lucas's story. And then when they brought in the prequels to give us, the backstory, it was the person that created it that was giving us that start.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was, big for me because, I don't think I would have been able to handle it if,
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was different because, the original trilogy was, they had that comedy like C-3PO, R2-D2. They had a little bit of, comedy there, but, mainly with Yoda. But in the prequels, they really brought that in because into a very serious situation.
Yeah.
And then, they were like, let's give him somebody to have fun with. And
Exactly.
They, brought in Jar Jar, and he's tripping and falling, and, eating stuff that isn't his.
Yeah,
getting himself into trouble. Hanging out with these,
there.
two very professional Jedi.
Yep.
Trying to do a mission, and he's just there to
Yep.
mess up.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, because he tries. He gets pretty big. It gets pretty important later on.
Most definitely.
But
and I love that the Phantom Menace also introduces to so many characters that we've heard about, but never got to see in the original films either.
Exactly.
You get to see Yoda when he was younger, and you get to see Mace Windu, which we've heard of, but never really got to see him in the originals. And you got to see so many great characters and different types of droids that we hadn't seen before either.
Exactly.
There was a lot of droids it's kind of funny is that originally, if you think about it, the droids of Phantom Menace and before we got the clone troopers and Attack of the Clones really were the stormtroopers of the original prequels, if you think about it. because you never got to see these, like, any of these droids in the original series at all. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing that Lucas brought in that made it even more fun and more entertaining, and just made it so much fun and just made it a great, film all in all. Another great thing about this is, I mean, it's really the introduction to, Darth Sidious, really. Kind of like where he kind of started out, like his slow progression to be, becoming known as the Dark, Lord, as Darth Sidious is, and kind of like how he manipulated things through being just himself, and then, still at the same time, he's in the shadows doing his thing. I mean, let's talk about Sidious for a second here. I mean, how do you feel about his first interpretation in Phantom Menace?
My first interpretation of Palpatine was, well, I mean, because like you said, like we were talking about earlier, is that you see him in like the little video messages before you see him as Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
You see the Nemoidians of the Trade Federation talking to him over, the video comm, and it's all it is the hood, and you just hear that voice.
Yep.
And then Palpatine comes back later, and you hear the voice, and you start to wonder. You're like, that's weird. He's kind of got that, the same lower face, and he kind of sounds the same.
Yeah.
But, when he first comes up and you just see him as the politician, Sheev Palpatine,
Yep.
You're like, oh, well, I mean, this guy seems like a nice guy. I mean, he's a politician, so, I mean, he's got, that, but, he seems okay and, whatnot, but, he, right from the get-go, when you meet him, he, tells Anakin, I'm going to watch your progress with great interest.
Yeah. Now,
which really... Like, when you go, you don't really realize it the first time, but you go back and watch it, and that, like, he's known the whole time. The whole time.
It's like, why would he say that, if that wasn't, like, a total, like, kind of just, like, Easter egg that they wanted to shove out there? Like, have him say that and be like, totally him the whole time.
Yeah. Like, he knows.
Yeah.
Like, even if he didn't know before about who he was, you gotta expect that, like, being that powerful of a Sith, he could sense how powerful Anakin was, even at that point.
Yeah. Because if you remember, in Episode 1-2 as well, the Jedi Council was saying he's too old to start training.
Exactly.
Which, you're like, how can it be too old? He looks about the same age as the other kids, you know what I mean? It's
they start pretty young.
I mean, so, I guess what's the starting age around, 5?
Around there.
Yeah,
it's around 5 or 6.
So, I mean, Anakin's 10 years old. So he's a couple years older than that starting age, but still at the same time, they're, saying he's too old. So, that was kind of, I feel, was, another kind of, Easter egg type of thing, showing, once again, how powerful Anakin is and kind of how, this is going to develop into who becomes Darth Vader and why he becomes Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And, as you...
I was going to say, because before that point, it was, difficult to get into the Jedi Temple. You had to be a Force-sensitive child of that young age so that you could start at that young age and work your way up.
Yeah.
And no one had ever gotten into the Jedi Temple, at an older age like that before. And then, after the fall of, the Jedi Temple and then the rise of the Empire, through, legends and things, people would, they would find Force sensitives.
Yep.
And then they would train them at, an older age, and then they would become Jedi. But it was, it was like Luke.
Yeah, yeah.
Luke was already an adult, almost an adult before, he realized he had the Force, and that, and then he started training and became a Jedi. So it was being that powerful in the Force really helps you along there.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think one other aspect about that was so cool about Phantom Menace is the whole pod race sequence. Now, the pod race sequence is something we had never seen either before, and that whole section of the film is just so intense and awesome.
Yes.
And it shows again how amazing and powerful Anakin is. From how he's able to race those things as just a kid,
as a human
child, plus also he's able to fix the ship in mid-flight while he's racing and all that kind of cool stuff. What 9-year-old would you know that could do that either? You know what I mean?
You gotta have some sort of focus.
Yeah. So it's this is another cool thing that that Lucas brought to us. Because I believe in the original trilogy, I think Luke kind of mentions pod racing a little bit, but we really didn't get to see it. So it was awesome to get to see that aspect in this film. And the CGI work that they did in it was really amazing
Glorious.
too. And really, brought it to life, and I mean, spawned a couple video games too as well.
Exactly.
I mean, that whole sequence is just really awesome and fun, and I really enjoyed that part. Did you?
Yes. My favorite part about the whole pod racing segment was more of like how it shows that he's more powerful and that he's really has that force ability, but like it really gave us more of a broad look at the other things that there are in the Star Wars universe, that the other things that there are in the galaxy. Like you see the original trilogy, and it mainly stays around the main group of characters and their quest.
Yep.
When we see the pod race, it shows that like they're thinking when they were creating this of more of what goes on in the galaxy outside of our main heroes.
Yeah, most definitely.
So that you see like the gambling aspect, the down and dirty, like the underground of different civilizations. The gambling, the huts. You get to see the
huts for the first
huts.
time. You get to see Jabba for the first time in full CGI form too, which was kind of awesome.
That was really
because
cool.
I mean, compared to the puppet that they used in Return of the Jedi, and I mean, we briefly got to see him in Empire Strikes Back a little bit before Han gets taken by Boba Fett. When he's telling him, "Oh, you owe me money," and blah blah blah, and you get to see a CGI version of him then too. But really, you only got to see the puppet version of him, and so seeing him like a full CGI form made it so much more easy and more freer to use him in the film. Even though it wasn't a huge part, it still was really cool to see him.
It was very nice to see, like, fully CGI. And the double-headed guy, the announcer, I loved that guy.
Oh, that guy was awesome, too, yeah. That was really awesome. I mean, the fact that we get to see another Jedi Master, or Jedi Knight, basically, he doesn't get the rank of Master, unfortunately, but is Qui-Gon Jinn. And I thought that was an amazing character brought to life by Liam Neeson. And Qui-Gon was just so awesome because you could see how much, how different he was from other Jedi.
Exactly.
And even the fact that he's the one that trained Obi-Wan, who, in fact, Obi-Wan, I feel, was a little bit more straight-laced towards the Jedi Order.
Yes.
But, like, it's funny that, his master was Qui-Gon, and yet he didn't take on more of Qui-Gon's traits.
Exactly, yes.
But,
because Qui-Gon had a few problems with some of the things that the Jedi Order believed in.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon was a believer that, the Jedi should be able to have love, be able to marry, have children. The Jedi, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, like, Qui-Gon was, like, had a few, instances with the council, where they didn't see eye to eye, but he was a very powerful and very wise Jedi Knight, which is why they kept him, but they never, allowed him to be master or let him sit on the council.
Yeah.
So
that was kind of an interesting thing I thought about. You really didn't get to know that much about Qui-Gon in the film, even though he was, kind of a main character in the film.
Yes.
I mean, you get to see him throughout the film. Still, it was interesting to kind of hear that interesting tidbits of other knowledge that you learn over with the Star Wars universe. But still, at the same time, just Qui-Gon was just an awesome character. I enjoyed him in the film. I thought he was just a really fantastic character and just gave us a really fun and, amusing character as well. I mean, the whole cast of, Phantom Menace was just so superb. I mean, you got the introduction to Padme Amidala, who was played by, the amazing Natalie Portman. And, you basically kind of, the gist of how her and Anakin's relationship was and how they were going to produce, basically Luke and Leia. And you could see kind of how they brought in Natalie Portman. I feel that she kind of had some similar features to Carrie Fisher as Leia. So I thought that was kind of a good, making her mother.
Yeah, try to make her look like, she was of that line.
Yeah, and so I think that was kind of cool, too. And just the introduction to her and kind of how her character was. At first, I remember watching it the first couple times and going, I kind of don't like her character. But you kind of evolved to kind of like her throughout the series. And by Revenge of the Sith, you're kind of, in love with her.
Exactly.
And you're just like, oh, she's awesome, blah, 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 and just how she kind of goes down that park path, to what ends up happening to her in Revenge of the Sith. And you're just kind of like, wow, it's like, she went from this to this, and you're like, huh.
Wow, we made a jump.
Yeah, it's like that, it was a great introduction to Natalie Portman in this film as Padme. And kind of just like, at such a young age, she's a ruler already, a queen, And I remember talking about that the other day with you, and how we're just kind of like, wow, she was probably about 10 years older than Anakin, but yet she was already a queen.
Yeah, because she's still like pretty much a kid.
Yeah.
And she was elected at a very because they do have like a sort of like election thing. She is monarch.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was very young, so she must have been around like 18 or so.
Yeah.
When she became Queen of Naboo, and met Anakin at that point when he was around 9 or 10.
Yeah. So it's like kind of funny, like you think about that, from the jump from Phantom Menace to Attack of Clones, like all of a sudden, Anakin's now like an adult. But like Padme still looks almost the same age.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like funny. You're like she's supposed to be 10 years older than him. About 10 to 9 years older than him. But yet she looks the same age now.
Women from the Naboo just look great.
Yeah,
all the
they
time.
do. They do.
All
They
the
don't
time.
age. And just the fact that they ended up getting who would play Anakin next in the next film was just. He did a fantastic job as well. But I mean, talking about Anakin himself in the first one, Jake Lloyd.
Yes.
He did a fantastic job as young Anakin. I thought
Fantastic.
he did, I thought he did a really good job. I thought he did. I don't think anybody could have done better. I think he was the perfect choice for the character.
He did great. He was because I believed he was playing what he was. Just a sad kid who lived on a planet as a slave with his mother, and couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Jedi and Sith come to their planet and bring, problems.
Yep.
And then he gets caught up in it because he just so happens to be the chosen one.
Yep.
So, he doesn't really understand what's going on. He's still just a kid. So, I believed that, and it was good. Like he did fantastic. I don't believe anybody else could have done better.
Yeah, most definitely. I would agree with that. And just that, all in all, I think if anybody else had directed this, I don't think they would have been anywhere as good if Lucas hadn't been a part of them. Because even though he was the creator of the series, he came up with the story and all that kind of stuff. Without him actually directing these ones, I don't think nowhere will we have gotten all the information that we do get in these, and the great, giving us a great introduction to, Anakin becoming who he becomes, Darth Vader, and just all the subsequent things that have happened. It would have been great, in like Attack of the Clones, or even between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, they could have had a montage of the Clone Wars themselves with Anakin and stuff like that. That's where we got the Clone Wars, cartoon series,
the TV shows, and then the movie, and then,
stuff like that. So it's like, I wish they would have showed more of that in that. It's similar to how I feel about Phantom Menace. Like, I wish they had shown a little bit more of like Anakin learning some of the Jedi things before we all of a sudden jump to him being an adult in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, we went from him being a kid starting the training, and then boom, he's an adult.
That would have been nice to see in it. But at the same time, Lucas did a fantastic job and gave us this great film that is very superb and beautifully done.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
And the CGI work in it, for 1999, because the CGI was still kind of in its infancy during that frame, they really took it to light and gave us such amazing CGI for the time. Like, they really did. I mean, I think the best example would be the scene where they're when they're coming from the Gungan city underwater, and all the monsters that they encounter in the ship. Love that scene. I think that scene's so awesome.
There's always a bigger fish.
Yes, that is, oh my god, such a great line too. But that whole scene is so well conceived. And I mean, every time I watch it, even now, 20 years later, I still feel it looks just as superb and, as it did.
The first time you saw it.
First time I saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, would you agree?
Oh, I would definitely agree. Especially that part where, they're in the little speeder, underneath the water, and then the big fish comes out and tries to grab, then the bigger fish comes out. There's always a bigger fish.
Yep.
I loved it. It was, I cracked up at that point.
Yeah,
Because, Jar Jar's just freaking out in the back.
That's me!
But, just passes out. Oh, it was fantastic. And again, back to Jar Jar.
Yeah, back to Jar Jar. Yeah, we can't help it. We got to talk about Jar Jar. Especially, I love it when he's, trying to explain to Qui-Gon, how he ended up where he was. And he's just like, and Misa here.
And then Misa here. You were banished because you were clumsy.
Yeah.
You so good to be saying that.
Oh, it's such a great introduction to the awesome character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, too.
Yes.
Ewan McGregor, oh my god. Ewan McGregor. If I was gay, I'd be in love with this man, okay? He is so freaking amazing. I mean, he embodies Alec Guinness's older version of Obi-Wan in the other 3 films.
There's no one that could have done that
No.
Obi-Wan better.
No.
Obi-Wan will forever beat Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And now that we're getting, the show.
The show, yes.
Obi-Wan,
Oh
and it's
my
going
God.
to be, and it's going to be him. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I have
mean,
very high expectations.
hands down, Ewan McGregor put it to the T and bringing us who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. From every single film, like of that first prequel trilogy, Phantom Menace, Attack of Clones, Revenge of the Sith, each time he delivered such an amazing performance that really showed us who Obi-Wan really was and how much he learned from him being that, Jedi apprentice in Phantom Menace to the master and knight that he is in Revenge of the Sith.
And he was pushed into that because of the death of his master.
Oh, this I did not know.
Because of the death of his master, he became a Jedi Knight younger than he should have. Because he still had not taken the trials yet.
That's true. He said that.
And with the death of his master, he had passed at least one of his trials.
Yeah.
And, so they really ushered him, to be a Jedi Knight a lot faster so that he could train Anakin.
Yep.
Once they, allowed it to happen. So, he was started as a Jedi Knight a lot younger than most would have been.
Yep.
And he did a great job with what, he had to do. He, was pushed into it. Still just barely an adult.
Yep.
Having to now train a child in the ways of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And he did fantastic.
Yep. I mean, think about it. Like, as we progress through the films, Anakin, every time we saw them, Anakin had to save Obi-Wan at some instance. And who else would have been able to do that for another type of apprentice? Nobody. I'm sorry. Nobody was as powerful as Anakin ever would be as a Jedi Knight or is even as an apprentice. And that fact was proven and shown in Phantom Menace as well, I feel. That brings me to, we haven't talked about the interesting Sith in Phantom Menace, Mr. Darth Maul.
Darth Maul,
played by the awesome Ray Parks.
All his own stunts, amazing martial artist.
This guy, I mean, I wish he had gotten more screen time in this film.
I do too.
This character would have been awesome to see a lot more of him, and he didn't get very much time, but that fight sequence at the end between Qui-Gon, him, and Obi-Wan was so awesome, especially with the double lightsaber.
Yes, the saber staff.
Oh, man, that was so cool. And yeah, I mean, the fact that Ray Parks knows, jiu-jitsu and karate and all that kind of cool stuff really helped him to bring to life Darth Maul as the character as we see him in the film. And I think that's one of the reasons why Lucas hired him to be the character, because he knew that Parks could do all those awesome sequences.
I like Darth Maul, but I wish he would have gotten a lot more screen time.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have given him a little bit more lines.
Yep.
Because of the Sith from the original trilogy, all you really know of is Sidious and Vader.
Yep.
And you're you get a pretty good gist of what the Sith are like from the two of them.
Yeah.
And then when they first, bring in Maul, it's just very different. He doesn't talk. He's very quiet. He's dark. And all he's there to do is take down Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
And, and he doesn't really have any lines. They just have a big fight sequence. And as good as that fight, was...
Yep.
It really didn't give us, who Darth Maul was. Because Darth Maul does have a backstory. He does have stories, what was going on before he got to Tatooine. And then what happened after.
Yep.
Because he does get cut in half.
Yep.
But he does survive. And then you see him later, say, in the Clone Wars TV show, things like that.
Yep.
He was the runner. He ran the underground, the Crimson Dawn.
Okay.
A criminal syndicate.
All right.
So he was running that after the whole thing happened. But when they first brought Maul in, you really didn't get much. So at first I really didn't like Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Because it just brought him in and he was literally just there because he had a cool lightsaber. He did a bunch of flips and he was just there to take down Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
But and then when you look more into it, you see that Maul, has more of a complicated history, and when you hear him talk, get more lines, see who he really is, then it gives it makes it more enriching. But at first, what we got was not really what we should have got. Like, we should have got more of Maul. But what we did get was cool. But I think we should have got a little bit more.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally feel like even in the Attack of the Clones, they could have brought him back for, to give him a little bit more screen time.
Yeah, because he was around during the Clone Wars.
So that would have been awesome to have seen him. I wish Lucas had brought him back a little bit, so we got a little more from him. But yeah, just like you were saying, they kind of like put him in, had him die, and that was it.
Yeah.
In Phantom Menace, and that's kind of sucks. And at the same time, though, like in the end of Solo, we get a glimpse of him, which was like, what? Like, what? Like, seriously, you're gonna just do that right at the end and not show us any more of him?
Oh yeah, when I was watching Solo, like as soon as they said something about the Crimson Dawn, I was like, are we gonna see Darth Maul?
Yeah. And so
that little tidbit at the end was so cool.
When he popped up, I was just like... And, like, the fact that, Solo's not getting a sequel anytime soon, it's like, oh man, what a bad teaser, or like a taste. It was like giving a kid like a little piece of candy. It's like, oh, that's all you get.
That's all you get. Not one later.
That's how that felt. I was like so pissed about that. But at the same time, it was cool to get to see him at least again. For a brief moment, that was really awesome.
Because I feel like they're setting it up, obviously. Because I don't think they would have shown Darth Maul at the end of there as the head of the Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
And then them having all these problems and then not like give us another one. So I feel like if they haven't said anything yet, that they're going to do something, but it might be a while.
Yeah.
And that that's a little upsetting. But hey, it's going to be a few years, so hey, we're going to get something better than we've already gotten.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I feel like they've already set it up. Because obviously there are more adventures that we need to see of Han and Chewie.
Yep, exactly.
And you can't just, you can't just drop Darth Maul in front of me at the end of that and then say, alright, that's all you get.
Yeah, no.
You're not getting any more of him.
No, 100% agree. 100% agree. But yeah, I mean... But so, like, just to really kind of re-encompass everything, I mean, from all the things that we've talked about, kind of just wrapping it up, all in all, Phantom Menace is a great beginning to an awesome film series.
Yes, it really is.
And it deserved more credit for how amazing of a film it was versus what, it originally had when it first came out. I mean, it made great bucks at the box office. I mean, it was at least, some of that money was my 6 times I went and saw it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's just how it is, and I feel that Phantom Menace was just a really well-rounded film.
Yes.
Really well done, and just had a great story and a great introduction to all these characters that we've already briefly known about.
Yes. And,
that we got a really good backstory, too.
Exactly. The Phantom Menace was fantastic because, when they gave us the original trilogy, and it was the eternal struggle between good and evil, the good side and the dark side. And then when they brought us the prequel trilogy, it was that gave us and made it the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
Because before it was really like Luke's adventures trying to save the galaxy.
Yep.
Now it's the Skywalker saga. It's not about Luke, it's not about Anakin, it's about their family.
Yep.
The struggle of their family.
Yep.
And it gave us that backstory, gave us a bigger look at the galaxy, and I love the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic addition
film.
And, a great way to usher in really the rest of it.
Most certainly.
It was great.
Yeah, 100% great.
First get to see the Jedi Order.
Yep.
So,
You get to see a lot of things that were mentioned that we get to finally see on the big screen. And that's what was so great about that. That was what was so great about the wait for it, too.
Exactly.
Because we ended up finally getting that. Especially with all of us big Star Wars fans. We finally got it. And that was just fantastic.
You hear Yoda talk about the Jedi Order. And the first movie comes and you see it at its peak.
Yeah. He is too old to start. So it was just fantastic. Such a great film, and it was great to talk about it again, and just a really fun film.
And I can't wait to do the next two,
I know.
and the rest of them.
This is gonna be so much fun. Yeah, so much fun. Can't wait to do the next one, Attack the Clones. Woo! It's gonna be so much fun. Woo! So, guys, as always, thank you for watching. That is it for this movie review, guys. As much as we like to stay and talk even longer, time runs short, as you know. But as we get into more of these, I hope you enjoy them. Thank you for watching, as always. If you haven't yet subscribed, or you've been here before and you haven't checked it out, definitely subscribe and hit that subscribe button, people, so you don't miss this video or any of the awesome videos we put up. As always, people, check out the Awesome Horror Pack, which is an awesome subscription service where you can get to your door every month awesome horror films. You can either get 4 Blu-rays or 4 DVDs for a great low price. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and hit that link down below. It'll take you to the site, give you a discount on your first month too if you're a first-time subscriber. As always, people, we will catch you in the next one.